Hello and welcome to Close Calls on the 42.e, brought to you in association with Air Sport. A very happy new year to you. It's good to be back, although the country is currently up in arms about Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane. We are going to look ahead to the weekend, as we always do in Close Calls, and the biggest sporting event is Liverpool versus Manchester City in the Premier League. Gavan Casey here, joined on the couch by Ben Blake at the 42. How are things, Ben?
Brilliant, Gav. Well refreshed and ready to go for the new year.
Yeah, you came back with a tan, Ben. I'm sure you enjoyed yourself, your time off, your excursions. Instagram famous now, Ben. We are also joined by ESPN senior football writer Mark Ogden to look ahead to the game. Mark, how are things with you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Happy New Year to you. We'll kick off, lads. Last time these teams met, Ben, well, Liverpool took a bit of a pasting in the end. I mean, it might have been a different game that day were it not for Mane's red card. And I think, who was it? Did Salah miss a 1-on-1 as well just before Jesus or Aguero got the second? But in the end, it was a 5-0. What have you made of both teams since then? I suppose Man City have continued in a similar vein, and in a way, Liverpool have as well, in the sense that they haven't really strung together a very good sequence of results over a large period of time.
Yeah, as you said, that day back in the Etihad in September, Liverpool started really well and could easily have scored early on before Aguero got the opener, and then, as you mentioned there, that Mane had that red card for the high challenge on Ederson. Since then, as we all know, Man City are running away with the league title, unbeaten all season, but Liverpool are in decent form themselves. I think they're unbeaten in 17 games in all competitions, going back to October when they lost 4-1 to Tottenham, so it looks like a tasty one.
Yeah, only 2 league defeats for Liverpool this season. As you mentioned, it was the 4-1 against Tottenham. From then on, they've been unbeaten in the league. A lot of draws, obviously, in that sequence of results as well. Mark, what have you made of both teams since that fixture in September, and what do you make of this weekend's game?
Well, you mentioned those 2 defeats there. I was at both, and they were both kind of different. The first one at City was quite a heavy 5-0 defeat, but I think until Mane was sent off, I thought that Liverpool were well in the game, and they had the game plan, I thought, to get at City that day. But once they went out of 10 men, it was game over. And at Tottenham, they were just really bad. I mean, Dejan Lovren had probably the worst game of his career, and it kind of exposed the problems that Liverpool had at the back that day in terms of defensively against a team with plenty of threat. So, have they made any improvements when they signed Virgil van Dijk? So that should hopefully, for Liverpool, iron out the defensive flaws. But I still think they have issues. And this is the real test, isn't it? I mean, Man City haven't got a great record at Anfield. I haven't won there since 2003 or something like that. But it's the real test for Liverpool. But equally, I think it's probably City's biggest test, because Liverpool, when they're going forward, are almost unstoppable now. How will they cope without one member of the Fab Four? Because obviously Coutinho's got, I'm not sure what to call the 3 now. The 3 Migos or something ridiculous. But the Fab Four is no more, and how will they cope with that? They're better defensively, but are they weak going forward? So I hope, for the sake of the Premier League, that Liverpool get a win at the weekend, because I think it needs somebody that stops City in their tracks. But I don't know. I think City's still got so much firepower, you can't ever write them off.
Yeah, big time. You mentioned the loss, obviously, of Philippe Coutinho. I suppose throughout the season, Mark, we've seen Liverpool, Ben and I were speaking before we came on, where they haven't really had the Fab Four on the pitch together for too long, and like very often, say for the start of the season, for example, when Coutinho was out with his supposed back injury. I mean, it was a back injury, but obviously it was linked with Barcelona at the time as well. They had, say, the 3 amigos, as you put it. They performed capably. Then there was the game we mentioned there, the first game against City. Sadio Mane earns a suspension for himself after that. There have been all sorts of, I suppose, spells of games where they've only had maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they're still scoring plenty of goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody put a statistic out during the week that showed that Liverpool without Coutinho actually have a better win rate. Now, I'm a bit dubious of stats at the moment, but they can win without him, and they're going to have to. Adam Lallana's not played a lot this season, and Lallana was a big player for Liverpool last year, so he'll come back and he may make an impact. So, Liverpool have got firepower. Salah's scoring goals for fun. Mane's had a quiet spell, but he still scores goals. And Firmino, again, he's got a capability. So, for me, this is the biggest test of City's defence. And the question I have is, what sort of defence will it be now? Vincent Kompany's fit, he's not fit, he's injured again. I think we saw in the week against Bristol City that when Mangala and Danilo play in the same defence, City are dragged back to kind of mortality, because they're not a great bunch of defenders. Danilo and Mangala just can't defend, and it made Stones defend worse as well. So if it's Stones, Mangala and Danilo at the weekend, then I think Liverpool will win. But I think Otamendi will come back. But still, without company, City do lack certainty at times. And John Stones, when people run at him, is not the great defender that people think he is. And obviously, Mane, Salah, and Firmino will run at John Stones. So it's going to be a real test and a real challenge for both teams.
Ben, you reckon Adam Lallana might slot in there nicely? Obviously, he's been out for a long time, but he can deputise for Coutinho, particularly given the role Coutinho had been playing in Liverpool's formation, where he was playing slightly deeper. Obviously, Barcelona are bringing him across almost as a central midfielder nearly, with an eye on him replacing Iniesta. Lallana can sort of fill the gap, do you reckon?
Yeah, just on the Coutinho move, it represents unbelievable business when you look at a player. I think it's 5 years ago now, signing for £8.5 million, and he's leaving as the second most expensive player of all time, which is crazy stuff.
No regrets from Inter Milan, apparently.
Yeah, so they say, yeah. But yeah, as you touched on there, and Mark mentioned already, that Adam Lallana has played so little football in recent times that it's a bit of a cliche, but he'd be nearly like a new signing to come back in there. If they can get him fully fit and playing as well as he was before he got that injury, then I think that he'd be more than adequate replacement. Not that they can comparable players, but I think he'd do a great job in the middle three.
Mark, you mentioned Man City's defensive frailties. They've been almost papering over cracks, do you reckon, at times this season, where they can actually be gotten at? Or I suppose for the rest of the season, given their 30 league games unbeaten, now 22 this season, can you see them being pegged back a little bit without, say, company, or if other defenders go down?
Well, I think the thing for me was when they drew at Crystal Palace, and again the other night against Bristol City, although they won that game, both Palace and Bristol City were prepared to run at City and take them on, and too many teams haven't done that, and they've been frightened of doing that. But I think they've shown a way that City can't be hurt defensively, and I think, yeah, they're missing big characters at the back, and we haven't really seen Ederson tested yet. I think he's got away with it a couple of times. He does rush out of the area and take chances, and I guess the Mane one was a case in point. That could have gone either way. That if Mane was a split second quicker, he goes around Ederson, scores a goal, different game. So I just think teams need to try and get at City a little bit and make them turn and they're fighting their own defensive third. And I think Liverpool are the one team that can do that. I don't think United are the place to do that, and I think Chelsea play across the front a little bit. But I think Liverpool are so direct and so quick with so much pace that they have the perfect attacking players to beat City. And I think another player that we haven't really mentioned is Daniel Sturridge, and I think he's almost fallen off the radar, but this Coutinho's departure gives him an opportunity. And one thing about Sturridge is he's a great finisher. A lot of issues of his game, his work rate and his kind of commitment. But if Liverpool can get him firing and scoring goals, he could replace Coutinho. And again at the weekend, if you have a 1-on-1 against Man City with 5 minutes to go, if it falls at Daniel Sturridge's feet, you're back to take it. So Liverpool have attacking qualities in depth, and that's why I think they could give City a real game this weekend.
Could you possibly see Daniel Sturridge and Firmino in the same team, whereby maybe Firmino drops back to the role he played a couple of years ago in Germany?
I think it's a possibility, yeah. And I think obviously Sturridge needs to get fit and believe in himself a little bit more, and also, but without kind of going too deep into the whole Firmino Mason Holgate situation, if that progresses and if Firmino is found guilty against a suspension, then that's Suarez got an 8-match ban, so Liverpool do need options. It's early days, nothing might come of that, but it's a cloud on the horizon. So I think Sturridge has to be factored into this, because if Firmino's not available, they've sold Coutinho. There's suddenly the Fab Four's dwindling down, isn't it? So, but what an option to have. Whether he's focused or not, he's still a great goal scorer, Daniel Sturridge, and a player that Liverpool would probably want to keep until the summer, I think.
As for Manchester City, Mark, I won't ask you how impressed you've been. I think everybody's been impressed by them this season, but I also can't help but feel we have seen teams with sort of similar, maybe not similar levels of dominance, but I do remember, say, 12, 13 years ago, Chelsea had started with a roughly similar record, maybe one defeat in there or something. Are people going overboard a little bit, or is this actually maybe the greatest team we've ever seen in the Premier League? Is it too soon to say?
I think it is. I did a piece on this about a month ago, and I think you have to kind of look at the likes of the Man United treble winners, the Arsenal team at the same time, 98-99, which won the double and then came second in the United's treble year, the Invincibles. I think Chelsea's first team under Mourinho as well were really impressive. United in 2008. I think these teams actually won things and dominated and retained titles and just set new records. And I think City have been fantastic so far. I can't take that away from them. I wouldn't want to, but there are mitigating factors. Some teams have kind of waved the white flag against them and just, played the wrong tactics. They haven't won anything yet. Obviously, that they could win 4 trophies this season, but let's wait and see. The one thing that could catch them up is the number of games, because they're playing 2 games a week, 3 games a week sometimes, and a 2-legged semi-final against Bristol City, they had to work for it on Tuesday night. So will they start feeling the fatigue in March, April time when the Champions League games come around? But that is when the true strength of a squad is tested. And Gabriel Jesus might be out for 2 months. Aguero has been hit and miss recently. So I think we're looking for crumbs of kind of comfort for the opposition. But I think I won't say clouds on the horizon, but just potential storm clouds if the fatigue factor kicks in.
Ben, can you see the freight train coming to a halt in the near future? Obviously, they're going to win the league. I don't think anybody's disputing that, but maybe not the sort of perfect season that we might have envisaged a couple of months ago.
No, I can't see them going unbeaten for the whole season, and especially not in all competitions, given, as you said, there's 4 trophies there to be won. But yeah, it's too early in the day to be calling them the greatest this, that and the other. If they were to even kind of hit a blip and even stumble over the line in the Premier League, Pep Guardiola is there to win the league and to win the Champions League. So if he can do that, then all well and good. But we'll reserve calling them the greatest until the business end of the season is over.
Yeah, you never know. They might do a Cork City on it yet. Mark, is it a testament to I suppose the style of football that they're playing, that we haven't really seen the second wave or the kind of second narrative where people are like, well, actually, this is where they got all that money and it's actually not good for the game, that people are still really enjoying the football that they're playing?
Yeah, we haven't really seen that yet. I suppose the bitterness of the rival. I think Jose Mourinho's tried to get that one going. But Chelsea have spent big to win things, and United have spent big to win things. So it's the nature of the beast now. I think one thing that might turn the tide a little bit is if they do sign Alexis Sanchez and if they do sign Johnny Evans and spend 50-60 million pounds in this window, it'll be a question of, well, you're top of the league by 15 points, 14, 15 points. You're running away with it. Why do you need to go and spend this money now? It's if Gabriel Jesus is missed for 6 weeks, why do you have to go and sign Alexis Sanchez? It's City's prerogative, isn't it? But other clubs just use the squad. So I can see a bit of resentment growing there, because we saw on Tuesday night against Bristol City, it's a major semi-final and the Etihad was half empty. So they're not bringing money in through the gate. They're not making the same commercial deals that Man United are doing, that Chelsea do. They're not at that level yet. So with those kind of issues keeping them down a little bit, they're still spending way, way more than everybody else. Obviously, we know why. They've got massive wealth from their owner, but there are supposed to be rules and regulations to stop that. But with PSG spending God knows how much money in the summer, the rules and regulations are going out the window a bit. So I think all people want is the semblance of a fair competition, and it's never been fair to the extent that everyone starts with a clean slate. But I think if a club is so much more financially powerful than the rest, it does take away the edge, the sort of competitive edge. And if they do sign 2 players this month just to cover for a couple of injuries, then it might turn the tide a little bit.
Yeah, that'll be taking the piss. All right, we'll come back to Sanchez in a couple of minutes' time. We did catch up with our old friend Dermot Corrigan, who joined us before Christmas. He gave us the latest on Philippe Countinho and how he has been received in the city of Barcelona, his new home.
Yeah, people were pretty excited about it, especially people closer to the club. Like, the club itself made a huge deal around Coutinho's signing. It was kind of leaked out, came out via Nike. It was leaked out that he was going to sign. Everybody had expected it to happen in the winter. I know in England a lot of people were saying, it's a difficult time to move. Maybe he'll stay a bit longer. Why does he want to go in January? But around Barcelona, and especially the people at the club, they were very keen to get him in as soon as possible. As much for the PR value of it, I think, as that he will immediately hit the ground running, because he's not going to be able to play in the Champions League, and La Liga title is pretty much wrapped up already. But there was a need to get another big star in because of Neymar going. Another big Brazilian into the club was really important from their point of view, and that was the main reason for pushing it through. Now, as to where he fits into the team, I think we're still going to have to see, because they've done so well under Valverde in recent months. Valverde has done an incredible job, really, considering how difficult it was when he came in the summer, and he's built a team which is not as free flowing maybe as the teams under Guardiola or even under Luis Enrique a couple of years ago. It's a very functional team. It's well set up. They're hard working, and then they rely on Iniesta and really they rely on Messi to provide the bits of magic and decide the games for them. So Coutinho, if he does come in, maybe it'll be long term as an Iniesta replacement, but for the moment, he's probably just going to play those La Liga games when needed to allow the other guys to have a rest, which is strange considering he's cost so much money. But that's off the pitch, he's a big deal. On the pitch, it's going to take a while for him to settle in, I think. It is a big risk for him, I think, because as you say, in Liverpool, he's a big star. The fans love him. The team is to an extent built around. He's a really important part of the team. He gets a lot of respect from his teammates, from the fans, from the media as well. And he's going to have to win that again at Barcelona, especially because he can't play in the Champions League. People have seen him maybe as a long-term replacement for Iniesta, but a lot of people have tried to be the long-term replacements for Xavi and Iniesta without it working out so well. And Coutinho, he's not a guy he's done well in the Premier League for sure for Liverpool, but he's not won very much in his career. With Brazil, he's still to be really seen as a top star for it. He's not much Champions League experience, so he could end up being a case that he doesn't hold down a regular role in the team at all, despite the cost that it is for him. So it's a risky move for him. It's a lot of money that the club have spent on him, and it's going to take, it's going to be next season really before we see whether, personally for him and for the club, it works out as they both expect.
Good to catch up with Dermot there, Mark's ESPN colleague. Mark, you touched upon it before we heard from Dermot there, rather, Alexis Sanchez and the requirement to, I suppose, if they are kind of like filling gaps in a sense with injuries. I can't help but feel when you've got young players like Raheem Sterling, Leroy Sané that occupy roughly the same position in the pitch, that by signing Sanchez you're maybe stunting the development of one, if not both, for a couple of years. Is there even a need in the longer term for City to add Sanchez to their team?
Well, Sanchez, I think he's 29 now, and obviously you mentioned Sterling and Sané are both young up and coming players, and Sterling's had a great season. He's kind of, I always doubted his ability to put the ball in the back of the net, but he's certainly sharpened up in that respect. And Sané, for me, I think he's been sensational. I think, Man United spent the last 3 years trying to sign Gareth Bale, a futile attempt. They should just have looked at Leroy Sané, because for me, he is the new Gareth Bale. He's an athlete, he's powerful, he's got a great left foot, he scores goals, and he's the full package. So, yeah, why bring in Sanchez to threaten those? But I think the Sanchez signing, if or when it happens, is a big threat to Aguero rather than the other two. I think Aguero has never really been Guardiola's sort of player. Pep will continue to say that he's doing great, but he needs to work harder and stuff. And Aguero's view is that I put the ball in the back of the net more than anybody else. This is how I play. And to be fair to Aguero, he's tried to change his game to fit into Guardiola's way of thinking. But when Gabriel Jesus has been fit, there have been times when Aguero started on the bench. So I think if Sanchez comes in, that would be the one that would miss out eventually. I think Aguero, for me, Sanchez comes in now, Aguero leaves in the summer. I think that's how it will play out, because Sergio Aguero is not going to want to spend the next 2 or 3 years of his career rotating games with Alexis Sanchez and Gabriel Jesus, especially when he knows at his age that he can get a move to Real Madrid, to Barcelona, who knows. So that he's the fall guy for me. And I don't know if you're a Man City fan whether that would be a good deal, because Aguero is younger than Sanchez. I think he's not the sort of player that will have a tantrum when things aren't going for him like Sanchez can be. So, but Sanchez is a Pep sort of player. He played for Pep at Barcelona. He's busier across the front line, so he's a Guardiola player. As you saw with Joe Hart, a lot of City fans were grumbling about Guardiola's decision to get rid of Joe Hart, but you can't say that wasn't the right decision. They've certainly had an upgrade this season with Edison. So, trusting Pep, he usually gets it right.
Absolutely, Ben. How do you see that one playing out? Do you reckon we could see Aguero making a pit stop at one of the biggest clubs in Europe, say Barcelona or Real Madrid, before that supposedly inevitable return to Argentina, although I think it's probably a little bit premature if he was to leave this summer?
Well, just on Sanchez, I'm sure Mark knows more about this than ourselves, but just reading today that Manchester United have come in and want to possibly bid for Alexis Sanchez, given the fact that he's out of contract in the summer, and you get him for a knockdown price this month. I think there was talk of maybe a cash plus Henrik Mkhitaryan, Manchester United. So
Mkhitaryan worked like a dream at Arsenal. Like nobody giving out to him, an arm around his shoulder, the professor. That's the club for him. Yeah,
it's a disappointment to see how it hasn't worked at Manchester United under Jose Mourinho for Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, you think United would have maybe caught the warning from Shinji Kagawa. It's like, who has the most assists in the Bundesliga this season? Let's bring him in. It rarely works. Mark, looking ahead to this weekend's game, to be totally honest, I'm finding it hard to care as a neutral because I've lost interest in the league this season. It's over. But I suppose it is a massive opportunity for Liverpool to kind of stake their claim as at least a pretender and maybe kick off a run that will see them finish comfortably in the top four as opposed to battling towards the end. You reckon if City's defence is kind of dilapidated that Liverpool will win? I don't know. Run us through. What do you see happening?
Well, I think the interest in this game is this is probably one of 3 or 4 maximum games that City might lose between now and the end of the season. So certainly, if you're an Arsenal fan, you watch it closely because you want to be the invincibles forever and a day. And I think the rest of the league will want to see City lose. And I think Liverpool away is a tough game for any. Going to Anfield is always tough, especially when Liverpool are flying, and they have been recently. So I think the interest is there. Can City be stopped? I think Liverpool can stop them. I think Liverpool have the firepower. I'm not sure they've got the midfield. I just think Jordan Henderson, Emre Can, they're not top class, and I think that is where Liverpool need to strengthen. And you mentioned goalkeeper as well. I think goalkeeper is an obvious area, but I think Liverpool, for me, that the top 3 I think are pulling away. I think City will win the league, obviously. I think United and Chelsea are also beginning to open a gap. So it's like a 3-way race for 4th between Liverpool, Tottenham and Arsenal. I think Liverpool are the favourites for me to get that slot, but it's not for certain. But if they beat City at the weekend, that will give them huge confidence and give them an opportunity to climb into the top 3. So I think there's a lot at stake for Liverpool, a lot at stake for the Premier League. And, we've seen this in the past when United dominated, when Chelsea dominated. People don't want to see one team running away with it. And I think it would be good for the Premier League for Liverpool to win, just to show that there is an opportunity, a potential chance of a slip up. I'm not saying it will, but I remember back in '96, Newcastle were 12 points clear at the end of February, and then we saw the Countinho goal at St James's Park. They brought in Faustino Asprilla, and it destabilised things. Who knows? Alexis Sanchez might be Man City's Faustino Asprilla. I'm not saying he will be, but. But things can happen. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And maybe if Liverpool get a win at the weekend, it might just change things a little bit. I'm just kind of clutching the straws, as you can tell. But I think otherwise, if City win this one, they're just going to coast it to the title, and it's just going to be a boring last 6 months of the season.
Absolutely. I suppose you touched upon there something I hadn't really thought about, kind of beyond this season. Like, we've seen sustained periods of dominance by clubs in the past. You mentioned them there, but never really beyond. Well, obviously you can point to United in the 90s and 2000s, and it was kind of an overall dominance, but there was never a run like a Rosenberg run of like 10 league titles, 11 league titles in a row, and it's never going to happen in the Premier League. Can you see Man City maybe at least replicating some of those clubs from the past, say United and Chelsea, where they win a couple in a row? Because that has been City's problem since they had this cash injection. They became a major player in the Premier League, was kind of having the motivation the following season to retain the title.
Yeah, and I don't see that ever being a problem with Guardiola, because he's very driven. I think no English club has ever won the title 4 times in a row. I think United, Liverpool and Arsenal, and I think Huddersfield have won it in the past 3 times in a row, and that's the record. So I can see a situation where City do that, because at the minute they're so far ahead, and I think United are second best right now, and they're so far behind City in terms of the strength of the squad and what have you. So City can dominate. Will it become like the SPL in Scotland, where Celtic have been on top for so many years? I hope not, but unless I had this kind of conversation with somebody at the Chelsea game last night. Who will be the first team in red to win the title again? Because Liverpool haven't won it for 20 odd years. Arsenal are in such a mess right now, they've got more chance of being relegated to win the league. And Man United, they keep 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So with the biggest clubs in England, they're the 3 biggest clubs in England, and none of them are in a position to challenge right now. City could dominate for 3 or 4 years, and if Guardiola stays there, then they could be the first team to win it 4 times in a row, maybe even 5 times in a row. It's a long way away right now. They haven't even won it once yet, but if anyone's going to dominate, it could be them.
Ben, sounds like you're Dubs. Sounds like the Dublin Gaelic footballers. Same problem over in England. How do you see it going this weekend before we wrap up?
I think huge news for Liverpool is the fact that Mohamed Salah is back, 23 goals in all competitions, particularly with Coutinho now gone. I think he could well be on the score sheet, but sadly I picture Manchester City getting possibly a 3-2 win. An entertaining affair for the neutral.
It won't be that sad. At least we'll see a few goals. Mark, thanks a million for your time. Best of luck. Enjoy the game at the weekend.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Benno.
Thanks.
Our thanks to Air Sport as well, and to you at home for watching. We will catch you this time next week. Until then, have a good one and take care.